Hi, boys and girls. It's Miss Bissell. We are on lesson 8-7 today. We're multiplying mixed numbers. Our essential question is, how can you find the product of mixed numbers? We're going to be looking at two different strategies today. So if you would, open your Volume 2 textbook to page 494. I will wait on you while you grab your materials. We're actually going to start with the visual learning scenario at the top of the page. So we have a clothing factory, has machines that make jackets. The machines operate for 7.5 hours each day. And our question is, how many jackets can machine A make in one day? So looking at the data chart, machine A makes 2 3/4 jackets per hour. So the machine's working for 7.5 hours. So we are going to make 2 3/4 jackets per hour. So we can use multiplication because we're going to have 7.5 groups of 2 3/4. So our expression looks like this. Okay. Now let's talk about a quick estimate for this problem. 7.5 would round up to the whole number 8. 2 3/4 would round up to the whole number 3. So what we know is that it's going to make about 24 jackets in a 7.5 hour period. So our answer will be reasonable if it is close to 24. All right, the book is showing two ways. Pearson talks about using area models to find the partial products and then to add to find the final product. What they're really doing is using the associative property of multiplication over addition. And this is a very popular property. So let me show you how this works. I'm going to work side by side with the area model just to show you what they're doing. You will use this in 6th grade for sure. All right, so we have our 7.5 times 2 3/4, and you can see where they've broken this up. Okay, now what they're going to do is, let's review this property real quick. This property lets you multiply a sum by multiplying each add-in separately and then adding the products. So if you think about 7.5, 7.5 can be rewritten as the sum of 7 and 1/2. All right. And then 2 3/4 can be written as the sum of 2 3/4. All right. Remember, a mixed number is made up of a whole number and a fraction. All right. Now I'm going to use color to show you how the distributive property works. All right. We're going to do some multiplication to get our 4 add-ins. All right. So we're going to multiply each one of these. So 7 times 2. And then we're going to add that to the product of 7 times 3/4. And then we're going to work, and we're going to multiply 1/2 times 2. And we're going to multiply 1/2 times 3/4. And we're going to then add those 4 add-ins together. So let's do some math here, and then we'll look at how that works here in the area model. So 7 times 2 is 14. All right, 7 times 3/4. Let's just work over to the side. So we'll make 7 a fraction, so we can multiply it times another fraction. All right, 7 times 3 is 21. 1 times 4 is 4. We're going to leave that 21/4 for right now. Plus, next we're going to move over here, and we're going to do 1/2 times 2. Again, we're going to make 2, that whole number, a fractional form, so we can multiply with it. You know what? These cancel out. 2 divided by 2 is 1. So that gives us the whole number 1. And then we're going to do 1/2 times 3/4. Oh, sorry. Move over. And I get 3/8. All right. Now, looking at this, I can go ahead and add my whole numbers together. And then to it, I can add my fractions together. All right, 14 plus 1 is 15. Plus, now we're going to have to look at these. These are actually unlike fractions. So, yep, you got it. We're going to have to do a little bit of work on the side. We're going to add 21/4 to 3/8. But the first thing we have to do is find the least common denominator The shortcut method works. The larger denominator is a multiple of the smaller, so we're going to use 8. So we're going to multiply 8 times 1 to get itself. So remember, we're multiplying by forms of 1. So this fraction stays 3/8. 4 times what is 8? We get 2. So to keep this a form of 1, and we want to use a form of 1 because we use that multiplication property of 1, where anytime you multiply a number times 1, it equals itself. So if you multiply fraction times a form of 1, it gives you an equivalent fraction. So 21 times 2 is 42. Now we're ready. We're working with 8s. 42 plus 3 is 45. All right, so we get 45 eighths. You know what? I'm going to go ahead and make that a mixed number. I know that 8 goes into 45 5 times. 5 times 8 is 40, so I have 5 left over. That becomes my new numerator, and I'm working with 8s. So I get 5 and 5 eighths. All right, boys and girls, I'm ready to add it together. 15 plus 5 and 5 eighths is going to give me 20 and 5 eighths jackets during that 7.5 hour period. So here's my answer. All right. That is exactly what they were doing with the area model. All right. They were multiplying the 2 times the 7 to get 14. They were multiplying the 2 times the half to get 1. Then they multiplied the 3/4 times the 7 to get 21/4, which they converted to 5 1/4. And they multiplied 3/4 to 1 times 1/2 to get 3/8 and added it all together. That is an awful lot of work. All right. A lot of people do not like that strategy, because when you use this distributive property, or when you use the area model, you must mix the multiplication and the addition, which gives you a whole lot of parts that you need to add up. So the simpler way to do this is what they're showing you, which is the second strategy. So let's take a look at the second strategy. And what they're going to do here is they're going to use improper fractions. So I'm going to just show you on paper. So they're taking 7.5, multiplying it by 2 3/4. All right. If we just convert these to improper fractions, then we will have a fraction times a fraction that we can then multiply together. So if you remember the steps to multiplying or to converting mixed numbers to improper fractions, we multiply the denominator times the whole number and add the numerator. Now let's talk about why that works, okay? If you have 7.5, that means you have 7 wholes that are broken up into 2 halves. So you basically have 14 halves. And then you're adding to it 1/2, which gives you 15 halves. So let's look at that. I just put down my little markings. 2 times 7 is 14, plus 1 is 15. So here it is, those 15 halves. Times, all right, let's talk about 2 3/4. What that means is I have 2 wholes broken into fourths. So there would be 8/4 in those 2 wholes, plus 3/4 gives me 11/4. So let's see if our little steps work. All right, so we multiply the denominator times the whole number, 8. 4 times 2 is 8, and add 3 to give us 11/4. And there it is. So that worked very well for us. All right, and then we're going to do a little bit of multiplying. So we have 15 times 11. All right, I know 15 times 10 is 150, plus another 15 is going to give me 165, right? So I'm going to do some quick multiplication there. And 2 times 4 is 8. All right. And then I'm going to just convert this answer, which is an improper fraction. I'm going to have to do some division on this one. I'm going to divide the numerator by the denominator. I'm going to get a whole number, a mixed number. I know 8 goes into 16 2 times. 2 times 8 is 16. I subtract, get 0, bring down the 5. Remember, we're not done. We have to go through all the steps of multiplication. So I have to divide 8 into the 5. It goes 0 times. 0 times 8 is 0. Then I get a 5. There's nothing else to bring down. That remainder becomes my numerator. I'm working with 8s, so I get 20. and 5/8 jackets. Okay, same answer, obviously, just a little different strategy. Took a whole lot less paper, and honestly, I think it took a lot less thinking in order to do this. So I think we're going to be working with this strategy. We're going to use convert the mixed numbers to improper fractions and multiply. All right, so let's go ahead and get to work on it. You will need some notebook paper today. So go ahead and grab that and pause me, and then we'll get going when you get back. All right, we're going to start on page 495 with number 2. All right, so they are having us estimate the product, then complete the multiplication. So real quick, I know that 2 3/4 is closer to 3, and I'm multiplying it times 8. So my quick estimate is it's going to be around 24. All right. First thing they're going to do is they've given us some boxes to help us. They are definitely converting it to an improper fraction. So 4 times 2 is 8, plus 3 gives me 11/4. All right, they've already filled in the other boxes. I'm going to make my life a little bit easier. Remember, we can do some cancellation. So 4 and 8 have the common factor of 4. 4 goes into itself once. It goes into 8 twice. 11 times 2 is 22 over 1. So guys, my answer is 22, which is relatively close to my estimate of 24. Okay, let's look at number 3. First thing we're going to do is estimate. So 4 1/2, we're going to round it up to 5. 1 1/4, we're going to round it down to 1. So my quick estimate is 5. All right, let's convert these improper fractions. So 2 times 4 is 8, plus 1 more is 9. All right, 4 times 1 is 4, plus 1 more is 5. They've already got the denominators for me. I don't see anything I can cross reduce, so let's multiply numerator times numerator. 9 times 5 is 45. 2 times 4 is 8. All right, I'm just going to go out to the side and divide that 8. Well, I don't need to do that. I know how many times 8 goes into 45. 8 goes into 45 5 times. 5 times 8 is 40. So I have 5 left over. So that's my numerator working with 8s. 5 and 5/8. All right. Let's move on down. All right. Number 4, we're going to estimate the product on this set and then complete the multiplication. So real quick, I know that 3 4/5 is closer to 4, and I multiplied it by 5. So quick estimate would be 20. All right. I'm going to convert. 5 times 3 is 15, plus 4 more gives me 19/5. They've already put the 5 over 1. They made that whole number a fraction. All right, I could cancel. Look at that. Those 5s are both divisible by 5s to give me 1 time each. 19 times 1 is 19. 1 times 1 is 1. So it's going to end up being 19 over 1, or the whole number 19. All right, number 5, 1 3/5. Yep, you've got it. It's going to round up to 2. 2 1/4 is going to round down to 2. So my quick estimate is 4. All right. 5 times 1 is 5. 3 more gives me 8/5. 4 times 2 is 8. 1 more gives me 9/4. Looking at my numerators and denominators, I can cancel out the 8 and the 4. The common factor is 4. 4 divided by 4 is 1. 8 divided by 4 is 2. Look how much easier that makes your life. This gives me 18/5. All right. And I'm going to then change this improper fraction, convert it back to a whole or mixed number. 5 goes into 18 3 times. That's when I multiply, gives me 15. So I have 3 left over. So I get 18 3/5 as my final, 3 3/5 as my final answer. All right. Next one. 1.5. That one rounds up to 2. 3 and 5, 6 would round up to 4. A quick estimate would be 8. All right, converting. Go ahead, you guys try this. Pause me and then come back. All right, 1.5 would be converted to 3/2. 3 and 5, 6 would be converted to 23/6. All right, I'm looking to see if there's anything that I can cross reduce. I'd look at the 3 and the 6. I can cancel those out. The common factor is 3. 3 goes into itself 1. It goes into 6 2 times. That gives me 23/4. All right, 4 will go into 23 5 times. 5 times 4 is 20, so I would have 3 left over. So I get the product 5 3/4. And then each time, I'm looking back to see if they're relatively close to my estimates. And in the grand scheme of things, each one is. All right. So you guys go ahead and pause me. Try 7, 8, and 9, and then come back. All right, 4 2/3. Hopefully you rounded 4 2/3 up to 5. 4 times 5 gave you a quick estimate of 20. When you converted your mixed number to an improper fraction, you got 14/3. 3 times 4 is 12 plus 2 more is 14/3. When you look at your numerators and denominators, there is nothing you can cross reduce. So we have to multiply 14 times 4. So we get 56. 14 4 times 4 times 4. 56/3. All right. You have to divide that out. So hopefully you had some scratch paper. 3 will go into 56. It goes into 5 one time. 3 goes into 26 8 times. Get 2. So 18 2/3 is my final answer. 18 2/3, which is relatively close to 20. All right, number 8. Hopefully you converted 3 1/7 to 22/7. All right, 1 1/4 converts to 5/4. Looking to see, I can cross reduce. I know that 22 and 4 are both even, so 2 would be a common factor. So let's cancel those out. 4 divided by 2 is 2. 22 divided by 2 is 11. All right, so now we multiply, we get 55/14. That improper fraction, need to go up here. 14 will go into 55. All right, I know that 14 will go into 55. Why don't we try 3 times? 3 times 4 is 12. I get 42. Subtract. Get 13 left over. All right, that works. It's less than the numerator. So 3 13/14 would be my mixed number. And it is, oh, I forgot to actually estimate that one. So 3 1/7 rounds down to 3. 1 1/4 would round to 1. So my answer, my estimate's 3. My answer is close. All right, the last one. Here we go. Hopefully you round 1 1/3 down to 1. 2 1/6 rounds down to 2. So your quick estimate is 2. 1 1/3 would convert to 4/3. 2 1/6 would convert to 13/6. All right. I see 4 and 6 are even, so let's cancel those out and let's use the common factor 2 to simplify. 4 divided by 2 is 2. 6 divided by 2 is 3. 2 times 3 is 13, is 26. And 3 times 3 is 9. All right, I know 9 goes into 26 2 times. 2 times 9 is 18. That gives me 8 left over, so 2 8/9. And 2 8/9 is relatively close to number 2. All right, so Numbers 10 through 17 are the same way. You're going to get a quick estimate, and then you are going to convert each mixed number to an improper fraction. You're going to make any whole number factors a fraction over 1. So I want you to work on those, pause it, and come back and compare it to my work. Then we're going to talk about 18, 19, and 20, and you'll need a piece of notebook paper for those. All right, boys and girls, as you work through your problems, you had 10 through 17. Hopefully you worked most of these. I'm going to leave my work up here so you can pause it and compare your work. You can see that I use the cancellation to give myself smaller numbers to work with. So these are your answers, 10 through 15. Go ahead and look at those compared to what you have. And then I'm going to slide down and let you look at 16 and 17. Pause the video so you can self-grade your work, see what you're doing right, see what you need to practice on. All right, and there are your last 2 problems. All right, the last 3 problems I want to work together. So if you will take a look at number 18, you are going to need your notebook paper for this one for sure. Number 18, we are finding the sum of 1/6 and 2 2/3. And we're going to multiply it times the difference of 1 1/4 and 1/2. All right, so we're going to have to do some work out to the side on these. We've got multiplication and addition, and we've got unlike fraction or unlike denominators, which only matters when we add and subtract them. So let's work with 1/6 and 2 2/3. So 1/6 plus 2 2/3. The common denominator of thirds and sixths are going to be 6. Sorry, line those up. There we go. All right, so 3 times 2 gives me 6. So we're going to multiply 2 times 2 to get 4/6. Don't forget the whole number. And this is going to stay 1/6. So when we add together, we get 2 5/6. So we have 2 5/6 times, and now we need to subtract unlike fractions. So again, we're going to have to find the common denominator. All right, again, it's going to be the easiest or the shortcut method. 4 is the common denominator. It's the least common multiple of 4 and 2. So I'm going to multiply by 2 halves to get 2/4. This is going to stay 1 1/4. When I subtract, I'm going to have to rename. So this 1 whole, I'm going to rename it 4/4. That way I can subtract. So this gives me 5/4, from which I can subtract 2/4. Look at all these skills that are coming out of chapter 7. All right, that gives me 3/4 as my difference. 5/4 minus 2/4, 3/4. All right, now we have today's concept. This one, we have a mixed number multiplied times a fraction. So we're going to convert that mixed number to an improper fraction. 6 times 2 is 12 plus 5. That gives us 17/6 times 3/4. Going to make my life a lot easier and look to see if there's anything I can cancel out and do some cross reducing. There is. 3 is the common factor of 6 and 3. Goes into itself once. It goes into 6 twice. That gives me 17/8. That answer is an improper fraction, so I need to convert it to a mixed number or whole number. 8 goes into 17 2 times. 2 times 8 is 16, so I'm going to have 1 left over, and I'm working with 8. So 2 1/8 is the answer when I multiply the sum of 1/6 and 2 2/3 to the difference of 1 1/4 and 1/2. So right there is as complicated as it gets. All right, pause me and go ahead and see what you get for 19 and 20, and then come back and look at my work. All right, number 19 and 20 required quite a bit of work. You can see out to the side on number 19 how when I added 2 and 4/9 to 1/3, I used the least common denominator 9 and got the sum of 2 and 7/9. Then when I subtracted 1/8 from 1 and 1/4, I got the difference of 1 and 1/8 using the LCD of 8. So I am going to be multiplying 2 and 7/9 times 1 and 1/8. I did the conversion to mixed numbers, from mixed numbers to improper fractions. And then I did some cancellation, some cross reducing to get the answer, final answer, 3 and 1/8. All right, number 20, I used the exact same strategy, okay? If you need to pause it and analyze what I did compared to what you did, go ahead. But number 20, when I added 1 and 7/8 to 2 1/2, I used the LCD 8, rewrote my fractions. I ended up with 4 and 3/8. Then when I subtracted 1/10 from 1/5, I used the LCD 10, rewrote my fractions. I have the difference of 1 and 1/10. I converted those mixed numbers to improper fractions. I missed some cross reducing there. Could have made my life a lot easier. Yep, sure did. 5 would have been the common factor of 10 and 35. So that's why I had to do so much work here simplifying. All right, so bottom line answer, hopefully you cross reduced and we both ended up with 4 and 13/16. So your homework that you're going to do, your independent practice, is in the book on pages 497 to 498, or you always have the choice of going into Google Classroom under our work for lesson 8-7. And with that, you are welcome to do the practice buddy assignments. But again, you have got to do the work on paper. You're just not clicking in random numbers so that you can be done with the task. You want to work for accuracy. All right, boys and girls, good luck with your work. If you need to review any of the problems that we did on page 495, go ahead, rewind the video and look at what you need to review. Have a good day.